Scott and Sam, the AM.
Good morning. Welcome to episode 13 of Scott and Sam in the AM. If this is your first time listening, thanks for listening. I'm Sam. This is my partner and my best friend, Scott. We're full-time dads, husbands, real estate investors, and business owners. We get on here every week. We talk about everything from life to fitness, business, and everything in between. I want to get into some, I think, topics this week that are going to touch a lot of people and be very relatable to people. Scott, how you doing?
Good, man. Good. I am in a different setting. If you watch in the past, I am currently sitting outside at my in-laws' house in on Long Island, New York, and up here for my son's baptism this weekend. So, which you will be driving up for. So, looking forward to that. Weather's great. It's way cooler here than it is in New Orleans. My God, it's 90 degrees and humid every single day already. So, it's really nice to be up north.
But yeah, hearing those birds chirping. There's just nothing like the Northeast. I've never appreciated it until I got a little bit older, but there's nothing like it. People say Southern California is a little bit better, but I haven't been, so what do I know?
If we rewind 3, 4 months from now, this guy won't shut the hell up about how bad the weather is. So, yeah, you're kind of like a fair weather
The Northeast,
northeastern.
yeah, not to put it lightly, no pun intended.
Yeah,
The
literally.
Northeast weather between, I'd say, April 1st and October 15th is unbelievable. And everything else outside of that is legitimate hell on earth. It's gray, it's dreary, it's cold, terrible. All right. So this week I want to get into some topics that you made a video about this week and we talked about as well. Talk more about how we look at both personal and business finances and kind of the practices that we've taken into our life that we use every day, as well as what we wish we knew throughout our young, mid, and late 20s, what we would have done differently if someone had told us. I like talking about this stuff because while I had um, excellent parents. My parents and I never talked about business. Like we would talk about money in the sense of my dad was always very transparent with me of how much money he made from the time I remember the first time he told me how much money he made. We would like leaving to travel baseball game and I had just started driving. So like maybe 16, 17 years old. And just to tell me kind of what it took to have the lifestyle that I was accustomed to and what he was trying to save up for so that he could retire eventually and things like that. But my dad worked a job that his dad did and his brother did, and it was a family job, and it was it's a service-based job. It was not like at all what we do. And um 99% of other people don't have. I'm sure you and I hopefully will have that relationship with their kids, with our kids, if they want it, where we could give them a lot of insight and hopefully help them get where they want to go a little bit faster. But we didn't have that. So I like talking about this stuff because it was the kind of content that I wish we could have consumed a little bit sooner. Or we had someone, you know, just to tell you before you go through it and help give you a little bit of an edge.
So, what have you learned
Oh,
over the last 10 years?
okay. I would say the biggest thing is to realize, you made a video on this that is excellent. Is that you're just never dead. Like you're not dead. I had a call last night actually with this kid in Tennessee who called into us and wants to JV on a deal. And he was telling me about how he spent all of his money he had on a PPL program and it went totally belly up. It didn't work, and he lost it all. And I'm like, hey, do you mind if I ask, like, how much money are we talking? He's like, oh, it was like $6,000. And I'm like, wow, like, okay, well, he's 23 years old, and you and I did something similar to that when we were about that age, and I viewed that as like the catastrophic thing at the time, and now I never think about it. And you just realize, as you get older, you get more perspective, how much time you have. There's always time to recover. There's always time to learn more, make more, save more. I always looked too far out from a very young age. I feel like I've gotten better at focusing on today. But I used to, I was at 23 years old stressing about saving in a 401k, making $45,000 a year. And now, if I could tap myself on the shoulder, I would not, I would tell myself, don't worry so much about that stuff. Focus on now, focus on earning more, making more, and learning more with the goal of at some point using all.
There's some practical advice that, and those are all, valid points. But for someone who's 23 years old who just, lost 6,000 bucks, and I lost 10 grand when I was about that age, trying to wholesale, and I didn't save up 10 grand. My dad made a promise to me that if I kept my scholarship through college, he would write me a check for 10 grand when I graduated. And I did, and he gave it to me. So like, I was really like the only 10 grand I had, like I didn't really have any more money. So it doesn't matter. Like you can say, like, I can look back on that time and be like, hey buddy, like, don't worry about it. It's all good. But like the worst thing that happens to you is the worst thing that's happened to you, right? So, like, it is a big deal for that person. $6,000 to him could be a much larger amount to us that would, be the same catastrophic loss, and I've lost way more money than that. So, when it comes down to it, like, what's a more practical thing that you would impart on a 23-year-old other than just be like, "It's all good, buddy, just keep going."
No,
You know,
no.
like,
I would say what I had said before about, for number one, realizing you're not, you have so much time and it's not finite and you're not dead. And in terms of practical advice, like everyday advice, I would, depending on your income, until you have enough disposable income, and that depends on where you live, how you live, all that, I would not worry too much about. I think putting money into a retirement account or 401k is good, especially because it comes off your paycheck pre-tax. But I was always trying to max it, and when you're in the W-2 world, it's all percentage based, and they give you a match. You want to take advantage of that, but you also don't want to leave yourself strapped for cash. And at that age, I would we talk about now the good fortune we have to be able to do the simple things like groceries and coffee and food and insurance and all that stuff. Well, at that age, you don't have that, and you don't necessarily need that. Like, I would live well below your means and spend money on the things that really are going to give you a positive emotional return in the long haul. By the time you're my age, like, you're not going to remember any of the clothes you bought, any of the jewelry you bought, the car you bought. Like, I couldn't tell you the first thing about the car that I bought in 2016, 2017. But I think about, like, the experiences, the trips my wife, like, if you have a girlfriend, a fiance, a wife, or whatever, like, I don't regret spending $1 on any of the vacations we went on together, vacations I went on with Scott and his wife. Like, these are memories that you have forever. I'd rather, if you're going to spend money, spend it on things like that. Don't worry too much about investing or becoming an overnight millionaire or anything like that, because it's not going to happen. Focus on trying to put yourself around people and consuming the kind of content that you want to learn to give you the tools. Like, I know I keep saying that, but that's, I think, the biggest thing. You have to learn how to make whatever money you want to make and then apply it. But you got to learn how to do it first.
yeah, I agree. I mean, I would say, in more of a tangible, practical thing, like, if you work a job that you enjoy and you see yourself climbing the ladder of that job, then saving money every month is important. It's very important. Like that, because most likely you're not going to come into a windfall of money like you would if you were an entrepreneur, and like you might never get that windfall, but like there's a chance it will come. And a lot of times it comes and then you mess it up. But if you just work a W-2 job, which is a great thing, for many people, just start saving now. The earlier you save, the better, because obviously compounding interest is a real thing. And as you compound your money over time, people get it wrong where they think that one large event is going to change their lives. And sometimes that's not the case. Like, sometimes it's one large event changes their lives in a way that propels you to the next step, but it doesn't, it's very seldomly are you going to exit a company for $300 million, or you're going to invent some crazy product. Now, there's odds that you could do that, and if you spend your life trying to do that, there's a chance you might get there. But there's also a good chance that building wealth is just a long-term game, and like that's the world that me and Sam are in, is the long-term game of building wealth. There is really no world where we're going to step in and exit a company as of right now. We just don't. That's not the input that we're putting out into the world right now. Like we're not doing that. And for most people, I think that's the reality. And I think that's what people miss on building real money and real wealth is you have to play the long game. So like I think what Sam's saying is like if you make a mistake, it's okay. It 100% has to be okay, because if it's not, then what are we here for, right? You're going to learn from, you're going to move on, but saving early and dumping it back into your business or real estate or whatever, like you just got to let time do its thing. I think
When you
if you
say
want to
save,
build real money.
are you saying save into a checking account, or say what do you saying? What do you mean by save? Because you talk about compounding interest.
Yeah, I mean, no, I never like saving into a checking account is just a means to an end to invest it into something, you know, into real estate in my world. So like if I'm going to do that, it's going to go into real estate. But I'm also going to save money into an index fund. And I'm just going to I put money away every single month. And I don't know that it's gone, and I can't access it. And that's my retirement. Like I have a retirement account and I do contribute to it, but like I don't get all those like tax benefits that, a lot of people like, they're super psyched on, because I get all the tax benefits from the real estate, right? So that's just the way that I look at it. Like, but if you don't have the real estate and you're not really into that, like you don't want to play that game, then yeah, you gotta contribute to your 401k and, tax free and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I worked a W-2 job through almost my entire 20s, and I would say two things: don't dwell and don't take things for granted. By no means are you ever going to see us getting on here and talk negatively about building a career as in a W-2 job. I have one of my best friends who Scott knows very well too. He's friends with Scott's too. Has worked for the same W-2 company now, going on like 9-10 years. He makes about $400,000 a year, and he's 34, 35 years old. And he started buying a lot of real estate about a year and a half ago, and he's built a nice little portfolio for himself. When you make that kind of money, first of all, you don't make that kind of money unless you are either highly educated, coming out of a very good school with a great degree, or you stick with a job for a long period of time. You're probably not going to get to that level of income unless you are sticking with the job and you're good at it. And he is. But when you're making that kind of income as a W-2 employee, there's not much you can't do. He can't go get a Lamborghini and a $2 million house, but he is not going to have money problems, and he's smart with money. He drives a very modest car, and he either saves it, he puts it into real estate, and then, he maxes out a retirement. But if that guy has any worries in his life, money ain't it. And getting to that point, whether you think $350,000, $400,000 is a lot of money, it is relative to what everyone else in the world that you see is making. You're going to realize once you hit around like 28, 29, that seems to be the fork in the road where everyone goes from saying that they want to be really successful to a very select few. And the other 95% of your friends chalk it up to some other excuse. I'm just going to stay where I'm at because I have a bunch of employee stock. Most of them won't openly admit that they're not willing to do it, or that, they don't want to do it. But that seemed to be the fork in the road that I saw. Everyone I knew from 22 to 27, 28 years old wanted to be a millionaire and wanted to start their own business or get their dream job or whatever. And it slowly fizzles out. And there's nothing wrong with it. But what I have seen from the outside, looking at some other people who stayed on the W-2 track, the guys who are now the most successful with a family in their mid 30s are the ones who stayed at the company, or at least in the profession that they were in. They didn't bounce around every year and a half looking to make an extra $5,000. You have to really become an expert at it, whatever you're doing. It doesn't matter if you're sales, your operations, whatever. You have to become really good and really knowledgeable at whatever you're doing to get paid well. It's not just going to happen.
100%. Yeah, I mean that's across every career, everything you do in life. You need to be good at it if you want to excel. You know, and it's going to take time. And if it doesn't take time, then it's probably something not really worth pursuing. You know, like it's very seldomly do anything that's worthwhile paying off happens really quickly. But quickly is relative. You know, like if I look at like my short career in real estate, like realistically, it's been like 9 years. You know, like from zero to where we're at today. Like it's not that long. You know, and but I also if I go back in time, like if I was to tell my son, like I'd probably pushed him more towards like law or maybe even the medical profession. To be
I knew you
honest,
were
I
going to
don't
say
know.
that. I knew you were going to
Yeah.
say doctor.
Well, I always wanted to be one. I just couldn't really do it. Like I just like I that stuff.
You
I had a
want to be a
problem with
doctor?
like yeah, like yeah. I always thought I wanted to do that.
Really? What kind of doctor? Like go get a
Like
checkup kind of doctor?
no, like a functional doctor,
A functional
functional
doctor.
functional medicine stuff. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah. Like someone who's like spent more time like up on the current um like the things that are currently going on in the health and wellness sector of things, that is like outside of insurance type doctor, um, which has become way more, a lot more people are doing that now and much more mainstream. But, I enjoy the health side of things, but that's neither here nor there. Um, you know, but for people who didn't choose that, who chose the business route in college, you know, that path can lead to a lot of things. It could lead to just a regular marketing job, a sales job, or you can end up a path like us, and you end up doing it on your own, and you got to be a little more scrappy when it comes down to making money and saving money and all of those things. And you got to be a little relentless in the beginning in terms of your saving, because like I said, like you will have like when you play this game, you will have some windfalls, and you got to make sure that you do the right things with it, because there's going to be times when you have dry spells, and they could last 2 3 years. Not saying like making zero money. I'm just saying making far less than you did, and then but if you didn't set yourself up, then you know
Yeah, it's
it
not
can
a
be it
rainbow.
can
It's
be
not a
hard.
rainbow road where every year you make more than you did the last. Like if you actually want to take
Yeah,
steps and jump up, you stop.
yeah,
You stop for a while, and you need to invest a lot of time and money. That's at least in our business. Unless you're creating an app in Silicon Valley, I don't see any other way to do it. But you had talked, it does definitely doesn't come in one windfall. I remember one time I had a friend of mine who he was like pretty drunk when he said it, but he meant it. He was like, I just want to work as little as possible and make as much as possible. And it like stopped me in my tracks. I remember it to this day because I couldn't believe he said it out loud. To me, it was like such a white flag to wave to the world. And, and he lives that life for sure. But, it's easy for me to be like, the PC thing to say is there's nothing wrong with that. Fact of the matter is, there is something wrong with that unless you have a trust fund or, you just don't give a fuck about money, which I guess also is okay. But no, it's not really okay if you have a family. Like now that I have a couple kids and I have a wife, like whether your wife works or not, or you're a stay at home dad, like that's all good. But someone has to make money, or there has to be a source of money coming somewhere. Life costs money, and a good life and the good necessities of life. I'm not talking about cars. I'm not talking about vacations. Nothing like that. A good insurance plan a good health plan, a good living situation, good schools, it costs money. Even if you go to public school, you're going to pay for where you live in rent or mortgage, something. Someone's going to drive it somewhere. And it's coming very full circle to me as I get a little bit older. And, I hear the story. My mom was always a very, I love my mommy. I'm sure she's listening, but my mother was the first person to tell you what could go wrong with something. Hence why I have crippling anxiety at 3 o'clock in the morning. I love you, but I'm my mom's twin. I didn't hear many major success stories when I was a child. I heard a lot of major crazy. Could you believe your cousin went through this and is da 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 and da? And now I get a little bit older. I'm like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Like you hear things as a kid, but when you're 16, 17 years old, it was very easy for my parents or whatever, someone else to be like, hey, you need to get good grades and this is why. But you couldn't tell me nothing at 16, 17 years old. And when my son is 16, 17 years old, I'm sure he's going to be the same. I hope we can find a way to crack the code through our content, the way we talk to our kids, whatever, to get them to understand and see it. But what I will say is now I've lived twice as much of my life now since high school, which is crazy to say out loud. Those kids who took grades really seriously, the ones that I know of that I kept in touch with, they have those jobs that you're talking about. That they don't have to be as scrappy as us. You finish your residency program in medical school and you want to go be a surgeon, you're going to be making $600,000 to $900,000 depending on the type of surgery that you do your first year out of residency. You know, People talk about like
Yeah.
student loans and stuff like that. Listen, you're making $1 million. Like you'll pay the student loans. You're good to go, and you could have a Macan while you do it. But that guy did not get a 2.5, right? Like these guys were the top of their class, and
Of
you
course.
know, I regret that for sure. I regret that for sure.
I
And
don't
it's
I don't
not that,
regret that because I ended up down the I wouldn't have even if I was getting 4.0s, I ended up in the wrong vehicle of school, you know?
yeah. But I don't think, as someone who's known you for a long time, you've openly talked about this. Like neither of us were brainiacs, and still to this day could tell you are not brainiacs. But I think if the average guy met Scott on the street, they'd be like, "Man, that guy is sharp. He is smart." What's to say if you had um, better self direction or outside direction and got the better grades or whatever that you couldn't have become a doctor or a surgeon or whatever like that? I don't think that there's anything in terms of like organic chemistry in your brain that you lack that someone else has. They just applied it a little bit sooner.
100%.
You know,
I was also never sorry, man, I'm getting rained on. I was also never pushed to do that. That's the it was never even a conversation. And that's why I was saying, like, for my son, I'm gonna have that conversation, like, "Hey, like, if you choose this path, it's gonna be a difficult path, through schooling and stuff like that, but the on the other side of it, if you're at all passionate about it, then it's gonna be a different path than what I took." And, like, I would love for my son to come out and be like, "I wanna get involved in the family business." I'm like, "Okay, sure." And he'll have a leg up, than what I did,
Uncle
but
Sam's getting the fucking boot.
that's right. Um, no, but it's just, like, I don't know. It's
It's a difficult education course for sure, but it's a less difficult life to go through, and you're living
yeah,
life a hell of a lot longer than you're in school, baby.
yeah,
You know,
100%. Like what you're doing, like what we're doing now, it just there's so many unknowns to it. Like I think about that all the time. Like what would life be like if I went to do a job that I didn't have to make money? I just did a job and I got paid for it.
do you know your answer?
I've never had a job like that.
A high school baseball coach all day long.
Oh, no, no, you're an idiot. I'm saying to make real money and get paid to do a job that's not
Oh! I thought you said like if you're
yeah.
working for not money. Okay.
No, 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 I'm saying, like, right now, everything we do is like, okay, like, I do this because it will lead to this amount of money, hopefully. Like, there, but some people go to work and they just do a task, like whatever that is. Like some people write code, some people give surgery, some people see patients, some people write books, and then they get paid for it. You know what I'm saying? It has
Yeah,
like
but what you're
the
saying is, yeah, but we're doing like no one's forcing us to do this. Like if we didn't, we enjoy it. I don't like, you know, I think if I hooked you up on a poly, you'd be like, yeah, it's fun. Like I like doing this.
yeah, no, it is, of course.
Like I think they look at it the same. Obviously, when you're employer versus employee, it's a little bit different. Like I need to make a video about this, but like the thing I always think about on that end is that there's just no set curriculum, there's no set schedule, there's no set, you know, that took me a while to learn.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. I mean, I never
There is
really had a
no
problem with that.
yeah.
I never really had a problem with that. Like, yeah, it's just, I don't know. I've never had a job that wasn't related to money, like, and I feel like that would be very interesting to just do the job, you
Yeah,
know?
well, you got a lot of life in front of you.
Oh, for sure.
I also, I think about a world where hopefully by the time my kids are, of age that these conversations start making sense to them, I'm able to be a lot more physically present and time present in their lives because of all the stuff we're doing right now. And I look forward to that. I look forward to that a lot. I got very
Yeah. I
lucky
mean,
with that. My dad worked a schedule where he would work for 4 weeks straight. He wasn't like away 4 weeks straight, but he worked a lot during those 4 weeks, and then he would not work at all for 2 weeks, and was around 24/7 for 2 weeks. And that was as I got older, I really appreciated that.
yeah, that's nice. My dad was always
Can I
home
get
too.
that schedule? Can I get that schedule?
You can do whatever you want, dude.
What was his hours as how's that work as a state trooper?
He was retired by the time I was growing up. He was forced into retirement at like I was 3 because of an accident. So, like, he was a private investigator my entire childhood and growing up. So he didn't like he was self-employed, sometimes, but I also split time between my parents. So like I think he worked a lot more when I was away, like when I was with my mom. And we did Monday, Tuesday, dad, Wednesday, Thursday, mom, and then we alternate every weekend. So it was like, when I was there I mean, he
So
worked sometimes.
when it was his weekend, you would just roll from the weekend right into the Monday and Tuesday, and when it was her
Yeah,
weekend, you would just stay. Okay.
yeah. And but they lived close, they lived at like a town, like literally a town away from each other, so it wasn't that bad. But yeah, no, they were home a lot. My mom stopped working like part of my childhood and stayed home. So like there was a time there. And then when I went to high school, she went back to work. So like, my parents were around a lot. You know, I don't know. Like I see a world where I would like to be like at all the T-ball games and whatever sport he's in and all that stuff. But for the most part, I'm going to be primarily working, at least during the days, way more than my dad did. But I don't work on the weekends. I think that is what it is.
Yeah. 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 It's easy for me to say I'm not missing any games, but and you know, I will put that before any uh non-critical event or task. I'd rather go back to work after and work late after if I have to. But like my parents did it just like I'm sure your parents and any other parent. Like if they could be there, they were there. If they couldn't be there, they weren't.
Definitely. Yeah.
You know.
No, I look forward to all that stuff, man. I think that's especially the weekends, like just consuming like weekends with just like their stuff and like I have no problem leaving my personal, hobbies and all that shit on the side while my kids are growing up. I don't care about that. Work is, you got to prioritize that sometimes, but in terms of I
Yeah, their
golf every
hobbies will
weekend and
become your
stuff like
hobbies.
that.
You're gonna start throwing again
100%.
before you know it. I'm already
Yeah.
throwing, thinking in my head, I can't let this 3'3" kid out throw me anytime soon. I got to keep it flowing. My arm still hurts like a son of a bitch, but I'm gonna get it back, no problem. Oh,
Where are you throwing? Into the
I
into the net?
well, I throw with him a lot. Like we throw to get like um Like he likes pitching. He likes pitching and hitting. That's it. He doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to catch. He doesn't want to field. He doesn't want to chase the balls. He just wants to pitch and hit. She's Shohei Ohtani. And he he'll like I'll sit on the bucket, like I'll give him a bucket and he'll pitch a full bucket to me. I got him a bucket of the soft tee balls. Remember, like they look like baseballs, but they have some softness to them, but they're the same weight as a baseball. So I think that's good for him to throw. And so he'll throw a couple buckets of that to me, like while I'm squatting down like a catcher, and I'll just throw him off to the side because he can't catch. And then we'll do that a couple times, and then he'll hit a couple buckets too. I can't figure out if he's a righty or a lefty. That's like I'm stressing about that already. I'm like, are we wasting all this time taking righty hacks? And then he switches over to lefty and rips one. And you can't. He's too young. Like I can't be like if I try to like show him something or take his hands, freak out. You just got to he just wants to play. You know, like, and then out of nowhere, he's going to drop the bat and be like, can we go to the skate park? And take his, take his big wheel to the skate park.
Okay. That's cool. That's awesome.
It's the best. It's the best. Once he needs to, I think in 1 year, he can play T-ball next year. I'm hoping at that point, that's when he'll become a little bit more open to coaching, for lack of better words. You know, like I'm not telling him like getting a 4-point stance. I'm just like, hey, your hands are backwards, dog. You know, like, like your hands are upside down. So, but he's 2 years old.
Yeah, damn, that's crazy.
I want to get him he rips a bike. Like they have these things. We didn't have them when we were kids, but they have these things now, balance bikes, which are just the bikes, but they don't have pedals or anything.
Seen that.
So he does that a lot, and then he's got like a bunch of tricycles. But I wonder if it's time. I was talking about this with my wife this morning. Like, should we just get him a bike with training wheels and start teaching him how to ride a bike? Because like he goes up and down the ramps in a skate park, no problem. You know, like he falls, but like he know, he ain't a crier.
He's almost he's 2.5. So yeah,
he's right about 2.5.
He's definitely ready for training wheels.
Yeah, I don't know. My wife was like, "You're nuts!" Like they do that at like 4 or 5.
Oh, dude, I was 2-wheeling by 3.
Wow. Okay.
Like they just put me on a bike with training wheels, and then by the time I was 3 years old, they took the training wheels off, and I would just like pedal, fall, and then eventually I got it. And it was like right around 3 years old.
I always do the Cam Hanes. You ever seen the Cam Hanes video when Truett's a kid and he falls and he's videotaping him, and Truett falls and he's like, "You okay?" And Truett's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay, get up." And like that's I just hear my son fall and I'm like, get up. Like if he's really hurt, he'll stop and cry. Otherwise, he's good to go.
You love taking videos like that and like applying it to your daily life.
Love it.
Sam is a big content. I don't know.
I'm a big life content consumer for sure. Like,
yeah, you are.
Yes.
You are.
Like you're not going to see me. I'm not going to watch like AI drama crap like about like I don't watch any politics, anything like that. Like I'm watching around like stuff like that, like life content, a lot of fitness stuff, and then business stuff. And then I'm immediately taking all those ideas and running them by Scott, and he's either shitting on them or we're applying them. Yet on social media, we are at Scott and Sam Real Estate on almost all platforms. We're almost at 10,000 followers on Instagram. We get a ton of DMs from guys and gals, and just want to say how much we really appreciate everybody following, everybody consuming our content. The reason why we set out to do this was because we wanted to help the next Scott and Sam consume the kind of content that we wanted when we were younger. Hope we can help other people avoid some mistakes and get where they want to go a little bit sooner. This is episode 13 of Scott and Sam in the AM. Scott is lost somewhere in Long Island. Tune in next week for episode 14. Thank you.
Scott and Sam the AM. Scott and Sam the AM, yeah, we giving you the real estate investors, showing you the deal. Two best friends on the grind every single day. Tune in every Wednesday, we got something to say. and Sam, the AM. Yeah, we giving you the real estate investors, showing you the deal. Two best friends on the grind every single day. Tune in every Wednesday, we got something to say.